Hello, welcome to sunny Copenhagen, capital of Denmark, and best known maybe for its food. I've got a Copenhagen card for the next 3 days, and I think we're just gonna dive in and do as much as we possibly can. Let's get exploring. So I just came out of the Design Museum Denmark. It was pretty cool. A lot of 3D design. I think my favourite room was probably just the one that was full of funky chairs. I'm heading to the Maka now, which is more contemporary street artists. Should be good. Also, check that out. Not bad, eh? Now I am at Amaliensborg. I'm not quite sure how to say it. But it is the Danish royal residence. So, quite cool. Not sure what exact building they use to stay in, but over there, that is the museum. It holds the crown jewels, and I think it used to be where some of the older royals lived. I'm not too sure, but we're gonna go in and find out. And then that dome over there, let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah, that dome, that is Frederick's Church, I do believe. We'll go check that out as well. I'm about an hour ahead of schedule, which, you know, is good because it means I can fit more in. But I'm not really too sure what to do. Right now I'm heading to Groen's, which is like a street foods place, and we're gonna grab some lunch. Catch you then. Okay, time for a food review. Gasoline grills here. I was gonna go to them tomorrow. They've got a restaurant that's like totally petrol station themed, but there's one here, so I figured I might as well try it. There was a queue. First up, fries. They look pretty weak, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, not amazing. But the burgers, oh, that's what I'm excited for. Meant to be world famous cheeseburger, so let's give it a go. That is good. That is so good. Okay, see you at the next place. It's getting a wee bit dark, and I am just walking around in the most random Copenhagen suburb. I mean, there's like barely anyone around. It's a bit strange, but I'm here for good reason. There is something quite cool out here. I'll show you now. Good morning, it is day 2. I've just been to Rug Bakery and got myself an almond pain au chocolat. It looks delicious. It better be. It was £6. Let's give it a try. Well, I've just done the maths, and it adds up to £6.30 for that. I don't think it was worth that much, to be honest. It was good, but like a small step above the M&S croissants, so not worth 3 times the bloody price. To make up for it, Macdo's coffee, because here's a top tip. In Europe, McDonald's does good coffee, unlike the UK. The only other place that I think has really bad coffee is Germany. So anywhere else in Europe, go to Macdo's, save your money. Okay, good morning properly this time. Welcome to Nyhavn. This is, I don't know actually. I don't know what it is. I wasn't planning on coming here, I just wandered over and it's very nice. I was meant to be getting a canal boat tour and I can't for the life of me figure out where it starts. Like where to trade my card for the ticket. So, scratched it off the list. Don't need it anyway, I can just wander around. But yeah, Nyhavn for now. It's very lovely. I'm just gonna wander around here for another hour or so, and then I'm climbing a tower. And then we're just doing a walking tour. Lots and lots of walking today, but it should be fun. Right, see you soon. Hello, I'm coming to you from the outer walls of Freetown, Christiania, which is a hippie commune in the centre of town. It was founded in 1971, basically at the peak of counterculture, and they run their own rules. So filming is a bit iffy, taking photos is a bit iffy, which is why I'm coming from the outside. But I'll give you the facts and I can overlay with any B-roll I might get inside. The drug trade, while technically illegal, was very openly a thing inside Christiania. Tourists would come to buy cannabis. And that only ended last year due to increased gang violence. So there were some deaths by gunshot recently. So last year the locals of Christiania teamed up with the Copenhagen police and they literally dug the road up Pusher Street, dug it up to get rid of all the gang-related violence. So it's interesting how the police actually cooperate and allow the community to live by their own rules still. Okay, I've made my way to a pretty random spot, I'm not gonna lie. It's taken me like an hour to walk here. It is Copenhagen. It's a power plant, which is why there's all that bloody smoke. But also, there's a climbing wall, and can you really see it? You can't really see it from here, but a dry ski slope as well. And you can walk up to the top. I don't quite know how to get there yet, but I'm gonna figure it out and then show you the view. you can see, was it worth it? Not really. I just came from a tower with a great view, and this place stinks of shit. So yeah, I'm gonna head down. I'm so hungry after all those steps. We're gonna go find some lunch. Well, I've just had my lunch. I had smørrebrød, which is basically Danish, like open-topped sandwiches. It's quite good, and it wasn't too expensive. It was £15 for two, which when you say it out loud, actually, two sandwiches, 15 quid, that is very expensive. But in terms of Copenhagen prices, not bad. And it tasted good, so I can't complain. I'm back where I started oh, look, a wee bird. I'm back where I started yesterday, but this time it is actually properly sunny. It's almost too warm for this jacket, so I'm having a good time. My legs and feet aren't, no. I've done 22,000 steps already, and it is only 2 o'clock. But I've got my coffee for some energy. I actually hate recording in public, guys. This is so awkward. I have to keep cutting my videos short because people are walking towards me, and I don't even know what I think they're gonna do. But it's just painfully awkward, and it's so difficult trying to just push past the fact that nobody really cares. I know that in my head, but oh boy, is it different when you're actually the one pointing a camera in your face. Anyway, let's get moving on to the next place. Hello, welcome to day 3. I ended yesterday by going for dinner at this little hot dog booth. Hot dogs are a big thing in Copenhagen, and it was good, and it was cheap. I didn't take any videos because it was so small, I didn't want to seem rude, so here's a couple photos. Anyway, day 3, as you can tell, the sun is gone again. I am feeling so tired. I did 35,000 steps yesterday, but today is all museums pretty much, so a bit less walking, it should be alright. And we're starting with Rosenborg Castle, which is somewhere over there. So let's go have a look, eh? Hello again. I've just came out of Rosenborg Castle. It was very, very royal feeling, more so than Amalienborg. And the crown jewels, it turns out we're in there, not the other castle I went to on the first day. Across the road, there's a botanical garden, so I've just been in there as well. Very lovely. I'm hoping the B-rolls come out alright because it was steamy in there. But fingers crossed, I've got some good shots of the botanical garden, and there was a butterfly room as well. That was cool. But I'm very hungry now. I've not had breakfast, and it's about lunchtime almost, so I'm gonna go find some brunch. fill my tummy up, and then we'll move on to the next place. See you at lunch. Okay, I've just had my lunch. So good. £25. It was a light brunch from a place called Zirup. And it had so much variety. It had a brownie, a waffle, yogurt, granola, fruit pot, avocado on rye, scrambled eggs, smoked salmon mousse on rye, and like hummus and chips. All for £25. That included a coffee as well, so actually quite reasonable, and I am full to the brim, so worth it. That's our next stop, Charlottenburg. Once again, another palace. That's the third of the trip, and they're all like within half a mile of each other. It's kind of weird. I don't know why there's so many palaces, but let's see what this one has to offer. Well, I reckon that's the most interesting thing I've done here. So, the differences between the palaces. Amalienborg is the royal residence, that's where they live. Rosenborg is, I think, just an old, I don't think they use it anymore, it's just an old castle. And it also holds the crown jewels. And then this one, Charlottenborg, is where the royal family hosts any balls. It's where the king does the speeches. It's where the Prime Minister's office is, and where the Supreme Court of Denmark is. And it's also built on top of what used to be Copenhagen Castle. And before that was another medieval castle. There's tons of history. There was a ruin, underground ruins, with a really, really interesting audio tour. If you ever come to Copenhagen, definitely recommend doing that. It's probably one of the most interesting things I've done. Now I'm making my way to the Copenhagen Museum, which I think is more about the modern lifestyle of Copenhageners. And then after that to the Glytpotek, which is like, I believe, Roman stuff. Quickly, before moving on, I actually have a couple of facts. So welcome to Liam's Fast Facts. Number 1, Copenhagen has burnt down twice, which is why a lot of it is quite modern looking. Most recently was in the 1800s, I can't remember the exact year, but within the last 200 years. That includes Charlottenburg, where we've just came from. That's only about 100 years old, just a little bit over 100, which, you know, that's very, very modern for a big royal palace. Fact number 2, the majority of Copenhagen is situated on the island of Zealand. Now, if you're like me, you might have wrongly thought Zealand as in Old Zealand, like New Zealand. No. Old Zealand, just Zealand, is from the Netherlands. It's an island in the Netherlands, and actually has no etymological relationship to Zealand in Denmark. Okay, now I'm gonna let you go into the Copenhagen Museum. Sat in a McDonald's waiting for my Too Good To Go collection time. Number one top tip for travelling Europe. Too Good To Go is the GOAT. You can get a bunch of food for cheap, and it's usually pretty good. I've got one more stop for the trip, which I'm going to do tonight after my dinner, which is the planetarium. I love space. I've got high hopes for this, so fingers crossed it's good. Fingers crossed it rounds out the trip really nicely. Boom. 2 sandwiches, a cake, and a yogurt. £5. That is what I'm talking about. Breakfast sorted. Okay, so the audio became really messed up here, but I was basically saying that the planetarium was good. I was all packed for the airport, and I'm making my way to Juno Bakery, which is meant to be one of the best bakeries in Copenhagen. I was expecting a queue, but it was literally in and out. But does that not look delicious? It wasn't too expensive either. It was about £4-ish. Time to head to the airport. Well, I'm back home. I have been for a few days now. I've been giving myself some time to recollect my thoughts, write down my notes, because I think while you're actively travelling, it's not as enjoyable as you might think. It's quite stressful. I think a lot of the positives actually come in hindsight once you're back and you've had the time to sort of take it in. But that's a whole separate topic for a whole separate video. For now, I just want to summarize Copenhagen. So, starting it off with my overall impression. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10, which feels a bit harsh, but it's still positive. There was a lot to do, but there was nothing that totally captivated me. And there's been a few cities I've been to where I've been totally captivated. It's very similar to London, I think, in terms of architecture, great history, really well connected through transport. But it's got what I'm labeling capital city syndrome, where it's so multicultural and diverse that it sort of loses a sense of place and charm that truly represents the country. So, best and worst. My favourites, planetarium, number 1. I love space, no-brainer. Christianshavn, number 2. A really beautiful, peaceful place. Gives you a bit of a break from the fast-paced area of the city. I just loved it, especially in the sun. It was great. My last favourite was Christiansborg Palace. So I said this earlier. Stunning reception rooms, fascinating history, and a really immersive underground exhibit I would definitely recommend to anyone visiting. My least favourites? So nothing was bad. I'll give Copenhagen that. On merit, nothing was bad. Copenhagen was a bit of a trek, and especially when hungry, it was an hour to get there, an hour to get back, nowhere for food on the way. It was a lovely walk, but yeah, I was hungry, and that reflects on me, poor planning on me. The other slight disappointment was the Light Festival, but I think it's because Aberdeen has set the bar so high for me. Spectra in Aberdeen is a really great light festival, and it's ridiculously hard to live up to that. So Copenhagen, you did your best, but it wasn't good enough. On to food. I didn't do any Michelin star restaurants. I didn't do any sit-down dinners, but everything I ate was good. Overpriced, definitely overpriced, more so than London and Vienna, which, you know, that says something. It is very expensive. But the food was good on the whole. And Juno Bakery lives up to the hype. Totally does. I was lucky there wasn't a queue when I went, but I would definitely recommend getting a cardamom bun. Probably the best pastry I've had in my life. It was great. On to accommodation and transport. Now, I stayed at hostel. I stayed at Urban House Hostel, which was really great. Central location right beside the train station. Good atmosphere, lots of social places. The bed was decent, the room was decent, and it only cost me £19 per night. My dorm mate sucked, but that's hostel life. Like, you win some, you lose some. Transport, on the whole, fantastic. Metro is fast, it's reliable, well connected. You can even get to the airport through the metro. And if you get a Copenhagen card, like I did, it's all included. I definitely recommend a Copenhagen card. If you're like me, if you cram in a lot in a short amount of time, Copenhagen card is the way to go. So, here's the part that everyone watching wants to know, the budget breakdown. I used to think that traveling would be too expensive to be like a realistic possibility, but this last year I have definitely proven myself wrong. And I'm about to prove to you, you can do it cheap, just like I did. So you've got to bear in mind, I'm from the UK, which means that flights through Europe are generally very affordable in the first place. But that aside, here's a summary of what I spent. So the flights, I flew with Ryanair, and it was £62 return, which is pretty good. It's not the cheapest, but it's pretty good. You can definitely get them cheaper if you go deeper in the winter, although I don't know if I'd recommend that. My hostel, like I said, £19 a night, 4 nights. That adds up to £76 for the trip, which is insanely cheap, especially considering how much everything else cost me. Hostel was really cheap, and it was a good hostel, so I'd recommend that as well. Attractions, like I mentioned, I bought a Copenhagen card, so the attractions were all included on that, and it cost £103 for a 72-hour ticket. That also covered transport as well, all the metros, all included. Definitely worth it. It's probably about 3 times the price if I didn't buy a Copenhagen card. And my food, I ended up spending on average about £40 a day, which adds up to £160. Now that includes like in the airport flying out and in the airport flying back. The food I bought there, the coffees I bought, everything comes to about £160, which for 4 days is quite expensive when you consider what I did eat. If you're wanting to eat good food, have good meals, you're gonna have to budget way higher. I reckon double at the bare minimum, probably. Altogether, the total was £401, and there'll be some currency conversions there on the screen for you as well if you're not from the UK. I think that's pretty good all in all. 4 days, I got £401, £100 a day. That's pretty good value, especially for how much I crammed in. I'm very happy with what I paid. So, that about covers it for Copenhagen. Thank you for joining me on my adventure if you've made it this far. I have another adventure coming very, very soon. So, if you subscribe, you can be the first to see that when it comes up. I'm gonna let you go. That's it. Bye bye.